opportunity coming from Afghanistan to meet someone who lives in Austin. And the ability to exchange ideas. And as a result of the exchange of those ideas, that person who's from Afghanistan, who may one day go on to be the prime minister of that country, will reflect back on the experience and the encounter that they had with that young person from the west side of Chicago. And it is the building of that empathy, and it is the building of that value muscle that will then lead to us having leaders that will transform our world in a much different way than what we see today. The Obama Presidential Center is really a beacon in I gotta be careful here. There is a larger civic conversation going on about what the future of our country is going to be. And the Obama Presidential Center is going to be the place where people are going to be able to come and to join and to work together in furthering a greater democracy and furthering a greater world. Now, all of that sounds great and wonderful, but what does that have to do with entrepreneurs that are trying to make money? The Obama Presidential Center, being a multi-million-dollar development on the south side of Chicago, has been able to be catalytic in helping minority and women-owned businesses to be able to participate in the building of this. Their community was a part of helping to provide input about what this Obama Presidential Center would ultimately become. Where's the gentleman from Roderick Ardmore? Where's he at? Minority-owned company doing work at the Obama Presidential Center. Power & Sons, one of the preeminent African-American general contracting firms in the country, joint venturing, doing work to help build the first presidential center for the first black president in the history of this country. Anybody know Chef Ron? Yes. Who knows Chef Ron? Who's been to Peaches? If you haven't been to Peaches, you better get there. But I'm telling you that Chef Ron, in collaboration with Bon Appetit, is going to run the restaurant and do the catering at the Obama Presidential Center. I raise these as examples because it's not just about the work, it's about the legacy. It is about the ability as companies for you to have the opportunity to help people to achieve their dreams through your ability to build your business and hire. Ardmore is able to employ people who then are able to take those resources to be able to send their children to college. Chef Ron, who's in the community. President could have chosen any restaurateur anywhere in the world. He chose somebody from the south side of Chicago. Intentionality is what this is about. Now, I will tell you that as the person who will be the executive in charge of running the Presidential Center, it is a very weighty responsibility for me. I am the grandson of people who migrated from Mississippi. Those persons were the great grandchildren of enslaved people. And I can't even imagine that in their circumstance of enslavement, whether they had the audacity to believe that one day one of their descendants would oversee the Presidential Center for the first black president in the history of the country. It is that legacy that this Obama Presidential Center represents. And the businesses that are doing work with the Obama Presidential Center, you now have a story to tell. That you were a part of the legacy building. This Presidential Center is going to exist in perpetuity, folks. This is not a 1 or 2 year project. This is going to be forever. Our children will be able to come to it, and we will be able to look at this investment that is taking place in such a significant way. Now, I've been an entrepreneur. I had a Cold Stone Creamery, and it failed. So I don't know whether that makes me a good business person for knowing when to get out or whether I should try to stay in it. But what I will tell you is this. Take advantage of this opportunity that you have. Networking is not just about collecting cards. It's about building relationships. It is not transactional. It's not about today, it's not about tomorrow. There are going to be other projects in the city. As the former chief operating officer for the city, I can tell you that a $13 billion project at the airport is not something that comes along each and every single day. And so we have to prepare for these opportunities. And there are going to be others. My hope is that you will use this opportunity to network and to build the relationships for the purpose of preparing yourself for the greatness that is to come. I want you to have the audacity that my great-great-great-great-grandparents were unable to have in thinking that I will be standing here doing this. I want you to have a greater audacity to believe that you can be as big as Google. Got to start somewhere. But you can be as big as Google. The Presidential Center is representative of this larger aspiration and dialogue and conversation and arc of history of our country. Next year, we're going to be celebrating 250 years of the Declaration of Independence. And as we look at the arc of the history of this country, and we look at the arc of how that ultimately resulted in President Obama becoming the president and having the audacity to think and believe that that can happen in this country, we have to have the audacity to dream big. And I just hope that my job is to ensure that the Obama Presidential Center lives up to the aspirations and expectations of both the President and First Lady, but also yours. Because I know that there will be people who will look at the Presidential Center and say, what does it really mean? And what does it ultimately result in? I hope that it results in hope, and resiliency, and community. I hope that we are able to stand on the values that have brought us together today that will ultimately result in us building better communities and a better and higher quality of life for all of our communities. You have this opportunity. And so with that, Kiana, I can take questions. That was good. Help the brother out. Any questions? There are no bad ones. Only bad ones are the ones that aren't asked. And then you walk out of here and say, he didn't talk about. Okay. Bruce, how are you?
John, this is a once-in-a-lifetime situation, and we're so happy that this activity is taking place the way it is taking place. We know that some of the goals of the Lakeside Alliance were goals that we haven't seen, where 50% participation, not some small number that is never achieved. I think it's very important that the Obama Presidential Center serves as an opportunity, like you talked about, bringing people from global together, to have a conversation around economics, around economic opportunity, around economic inclusion. As you start to think about the programming and the ongoing activity, not just in contracting, but in terms of connecting people to capital, to investment, to get those ideas funded so they have a real chance of being the next Google or whoever. Mm-hmm. Talk about that kind of platform, not just a platform for My Brother's Keeper, which is certainly a great platform and consequential, because if we don't take care of our youth in intergenerational ways, we don't have a future. But talking about seeding an economic conversation at the heart of this activity. Talk about how this will be a platform for those kinds of conversations.
Absolutely. So, Guion Foreman, who many of you may know, Guion is one of our great city assets in terms of community economic development. And so Guion and his organization are working very closely with us to make sure that we're not just building a building, we're not just building a park, but that we are utilizing the Presidential Center as that catalytic thing that will enable entrepreneurs and businesses. And so one of the things that we will be taking a look at is what are the very specific things that we as the Obama Foundation and through the Presidential Center will be able to do in order to enable business. And not just business with the Presidential Center. You know, because you have to keep in mind, we are a foundation. And by our very work, it is very mission-oriented. And so what we have tried to do through Lakeside and through the construction of the Presidential Center is to be very intentional about trying to bring together joint ventures that normally would not take place in any other type of situation because we're not hindered by the same, excuse me, government folks, bureaucratic processes where you're sitting there and you're looking and you're like, well, your certification says and has this SIC code, but you're trying to do work in this SIC code, and so no, you can't have the work. We were able to facilitate Power & Sons being a part of this, going through an RFP process, but making sure that who received contracts were companies that reflected the values of the Presidential Center and of the president. And so we were able to be very innovative in the way that we think about that. I mean, for those of you who know Chef Rome, is there any question in your mind that he is an African-American man? So do I need a piece of paper from Chief Roberts to tell me to utilize him to do restaurant work when I know that his restaurant is right there at 47th and Gay Drive? And I can look at him and I know that he runs the business and I know that he owns the business and I know that he reinvests back in community. Government gets into the business of lowest responsible bidder. We want people who are going to reinvest in community as a result of receiving the resources and the benefit of the work that comes with being a part of this presidential center. So we are going to continue. We're going to continue facilitating that. And you know, the thing with the Presidential Center is we don't have 10-year contracts. And so there's going to be an opportunity, you know, we're in this period where we're trying to get to open, which will happen next spring. I ain't got no tickets. Stop looking at me like that. Don't have it, all right? But spring 26, we're going to be open. And so we have a lot of our contracts that are going to be helping us in standing up this operation in place. There's still some additional procurements that we're going to be doing. But these are not contracts that are going to be there for the next 10 years. Because what we want to be able to do, what we have to be able to do, I have to be able to see how our operation works. Because here's the thing, folks. Can anybody tell me where another presidential center is in the city of Chicago? We're going to be number 17. There's only 16 presidential libraries, presidential centers in the entire country. And no one has built a presidential center like this. There are no taxpayer dollars included in this. No government funding included in this. And that was very intentional. And it gave the foundation the flexibility to be able to choose a chef from. That's what the opportunity means. That's what this entire project is really all about. It's about being intentional about the outcomes that we want to be able to see as a result of this work. Give me your name, company,
Sure.
social security number, how many kids?
Right. Let AI do that yet. No. Chris Rudd, founder of Shot by Design. Appreciate your comments. We actually wrote the first strategic plan for the My Brother's Keeper initiative 7 years ago, and I love hearing you talk about how in building the Presidential Center, this engagement with the community. And so my question is about continuous engagement. like as a design firm, we are always trying to support organizations to help them continuously understand their evolving constituency. And so what are the needs in 5 years? So, still talking with the My Brother's Keeper folks, we now see that the plan that we wrote 7 years ago, the needs of young black men and young men of color in the city has now shifted, and so now we're talking about another project. So just thinking about and asking around continuous engagement, research for how the Presidential Center continues to serve the South Side and its residents in perpetuity.
It's a very cool question. Thank you for that. Look, I guess what I would say to you is that I want people to understand the life cycle of what this represents. Again, this is not something that's going to be here for the next 2 or 3 years and then it's going to go away. This is going to be a presidential center that is going to evolve. And it has to, because our country conversation evolves. If we look at where we are now versus when President Obama was in place, it's a different dynamic, right? We don't have to get into the politics of it, but what should be constant is the value of a democratic society and its values. And so when you talk about the programs, our programs are going to continue to evolve. Because needs of community is going to evolve. But here's what's so critical about what the Obama Presidential Center is going to be able to do. It is not going to be the Presidential Center that is going to come out and stand on the stage and tell you what community ought to be. It is creating the platform that allows communities to come in and to decide for themselves what type of communities, cities, state, and country we want to have. The saying that we are the change that we've been waiting for. So as My Brother's Keeper needs to evolve, it is going to evolve because you're going to come to the Presidential Center. You're going to come into our 300-seat auditorium, and you're going to sit on a stage, and you're going to talk about what is important to you as a father. What is important to you as a member of this broader community in terms of what is needed in order to reach the most vulnerable populations in our community. And we're going to be able to sit around the table and we're going to be able to have these conversations and we're going to be able to come up with a new plan. And we're going to be able to implement a different type of plan that addresses, what is it now, Gen A? I'm Gen X, so, we're the latchkey kids, put the key on our neck and send us out and I'll see you at the end of the day. So what these new generations are going to be, I don't know, but we're going to have to think about that. And we're going to have a place that allows us to convene to have those ideas and to have those conversations. And look, folks, they're going to be difficult conversations. They're generational. They are racial. They are ethnic. They are neighborhood. They are state, city versus suburban. But it's okay. Because if we are sincere about our motives and intentions to create a better South Side, whether that's in Woodlawn, whether that's in South Shore, a better city, a better state, it means that we come to this table of conversation not questioning each other's motives and intentions. And being sincere about wanting to communicate and be open in those conversations. So, Doc, we're going to have these conversations about health and wellness and what that means and food deserts and all of those things because the Presidential Center is going to serve as the platform that is going to allow us to convene all these folks who have these ideas to be able to talk about how we create a better community and a more perfect union. That's what I'm excited about because it's really not about me. My son is, let me get it right. My son just turned 30 on the 28th. I have a daughter who's 27, and I have a younger daughter who is a junior in Tuskegee studying mechanical engineering and mathematics. I am so glad that the apple fell far from the tree. But I say that to say, the future of our community, the future of the South Side, the future of this city can't be what I think it is. Because they have to choose to want to be here. This has to become a city that is a city that they believe that they can thrive in. And that means creating the table where those conversations can take place. And so I'm very excited about what the Presidential Center has the opportunity to do because of those conversations that are both cross-generational and so many other dynamics and constituencies that will help us to think about how we solve these pressing problems in our city and our country. Yes, ma'am.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Tina Lori Harris with Chicago Public Schools. I serve as the executive director over all the business for the district. So I'm very happy to share the mic, and I wanted to step up for a minute and ask the question that was burning inside. First off, I want Obama Foundation to adopt Hyde Park High School. Okay? I'm saying it publicly. It's across the street, Hyde Park High School. Everyone loves Kenwood. I love Kenwood too. But Hyde Park needs some love.
Limblom.
I'm Limblom too. Boom, boom. I'm Limblom alum. Thank you. So that's my first ask. Another ask I have is I would love to hear more about, my office is called the Business Enterprise Development ESG. I'm into policies and sustainability when I'm gone. Because this is great, this legacy thing, but what we find is, and we're experiencing it, how we can have projects or policies, but they're not fermented enough to be sustainable for 100 years. We're seeing things being dismantled for MBE, WBE, BEP, DEP. It's literally being annihilated. And I would love to hear you talk about how you're gonna have the sustainability in 2021, 25. So right now we got the Gen Z, which is the largest generation in the world. Alpha Gen are the little ones that are like 5, 6 years old. I got a bunch of Gen Z, I'm raising. I know you got Gen Z. We need to engage them because they've absolutely they've quit. And just to keep them inspired and keeping them ready to go. And this is very difficult. With me being in the public school, we're losing children to suicide at 10. So I would love to see, like, what is the ESG? What is going to happen in 2021, 25? What's going to happen in 22? Because we can look around Chicago because we're such a beautiful city. And we can point to Limblom, which is Robert Limblom Technical High School. I approve of this message. It's a beautiful building that is standing with you and me walking through those hallways and them back alleys and where we're standing today. So I just would love to hear you talk about the rollout. I would love to hear you talk about ESG. And I would love to hear you talk about once the construction is over, because construction and DEP, all that is very low-hanging fruit. I want to see some pro-serve, some ITS, some attorneys, some third-party services, some professional applications. How can we make sure, graphic artists, I can list some paletters. How do we ensure that that is in the fermentation when Obama in 21, 25, that those businesses sustain in Hyde Park High School is a part of the foundation. I'll yield my mic. Thank you.
I appreciate that. So I will make a personal commitment to you that I will have a relationship with the principal from Hyde Park High School. Because it is across the street. And the reality is, you have to see stuff manifested in real ways. And so to be able to walk into Hyde Park High School, not necessarily to tell my story, but to make the connection between someone at the Obama Presidential Center and the students that are walking those halls is very important, because they got to be able to see what they can aspire to, right? That audacity to be able to say, if I'm across the street from the Presidential Center for the first Black president in the history of the United States, and then the person who runs that Presidential Center actually walks into my classroom and walks down the hall with me and shakes my hand and says, give me a call. I didn't have that. So you have my word that we will do that. Now, I have to be very careful because I don't represent John Roberson, I represent the Obama Foundation. And as we have seen in kind of these larger civic discourses, there are organizations that because of their policies or because of things that people from those organizations, no matter at what level that they say, results in potential issues for the organization. So I'm limited in what I can say publicly about those things, right? You want to know what John Roberson thinks, you can catch me outside. But I think that, look, we all recognize the challenges that we are facing as it relates to talking about DEI as a result of things that are being promulgated from the federal government. Cultural institutions, institutions of higher learning. We at the Obama Foundation, we stand on our values. And those are hope to action values that we promulgate around the things that we believe serve as the foundational pillars for democracy. And so our demonstration of equity and inclusiveness is reflected in the work that we have done so far in terms of who we have brought on board to help us to build this presidential center. In terms of the ongoing work, as I mentioned before, there are going to be opportunities to do work with the foundation, but it really is about how does the foundation become the platform that connects people to do work elsewhere as well. I was talking with a company who does staffing and IT services, and they're not focused on government. What they're focused on is working with each and every single one of you to build up your capacity so that you have the ability to go after the work that Charlotte puts out. And I found that to be an amazing kind of business approach because there are so many businesses that can't take advantage of some of the opportunities because they don't have the infrastructure to be able to do it. They can't. Look, folks, it's a lot of money to carry an FTE. Just one. And you can't carry that FTE in anticipation that you might get work in 10 months. And so for there to be a company that is out there that is willing to partner and work with smaller businesses to say, look, if you need X, Y, and Z, we can provide the back office, we can provide the staffing. You see, I didn't say their name because I'm not going to be doing commercials for folks. But I'm simply saying that there is an opportunity that this platform creates for there to be the connection of people to opportunity. And that is what we are absolutely committed to at the foundation, is making sure that we're doing everything that we can to connect people both in terms of this larger work, this larger civic work, but also the work of what is necessary to build the assets and resources in our communities.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, President John. The culmination of people's questions pretty much answered mine, so it's more so like a statement.
Sure.
I'm Marjorie Scott, and I am a partner and vendor and alumni of Chicago Public Schools, and I provide professional development in culture and climate. And it turned out from a professional development for teachers and leaders, but graduated to the parent action councils, the community action councils, the local school councils, because we take a human approach and we use strategies from good parents. And I say all that to say that when considering things that have never been done before, considering bridging gaps and making things sustainable, the goal is to build a culture and climate from homes to schools to communities, because that is the holistic approach. When considering the Obama Center, being right across the street from Hyde Park, I am a Kenwood alum, but I agree with the love from Hyde Park. Considering how we prepare our students and using this as a systemic structure to prepare our students to come back to our community. At Kenwood, they gave us all this education. We went off to college. I moved to Florida for 10 years. I just got back a couple of years ago, right? But really create an opportunity leveraging the Obama Center to prepare our students, our children, and parents, because our parents need the support too, and the community, because oftentimes people in the community don't know how to talk to our kids, right? Creating a holistic approach that prepares our students on the foundational, which is social levels, right? Preparing our kids on the foundational level to come back to serve our communities. Let's stop sending our kids out to the suburbs and out of the states after we pour everything into them, and create a space that just continues to recycle itself. So that's my statement, and I look forward to being on that stage one day at the Obama Center to share this message as well. But you guys already put it together. We just got to put it into a system, and I got that.
Thank you for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for sharing this time with me. This has been uplifting for me because, sometimes, especially for leaders like a Hermine Hartman who have been at this work of trying to effectuate change and a better quality of life for our communities for a very long time. She's only 18 too. And so, but I am really encouraged by this work. I'm encouraged by the fact that you are here because it shows that you have hope. That you are not so anchored down by circumstances, present circumstances, that you feel that you should just kind of sit at home, throw your hands up, and just kind of wait it out. We got to be engaged. Hope is one thing, but action is something different. If we want it, we got to go get it. And I'm glad to be a part of this room that is so focused on making sure that we're doing all the things to make our communities better. So thank you very much.
Let's again give a round of applause to John and the entire team at the Obama Presidential Center. Truly the audacity that they are demonstrating to set a new standard of inclusion should be a bar that we continue to strive for. So once again, we thank the Presidential Center for their time. One of the things I think is so important for us to be reminded of is there are, and you will continue to hear throughout the day, about striking development projects that are taking place in the city, from the Obama Presidential Center to the 1901 project right up the street, to the Red Line expansion. All of these opportunities create a space for real economic mobility. And so the question was asked about how do we create sustainable change? How do we create this environment where there is a culture of real inclusion? We need thought partnership. As I indicated earlier, as the CEO for the Business Leadership Council, one of the premier business support organizations in the city of Chicago, it's important that we work in tandem, that we understand the challenges that you face, and that we don't just magnify a problem, but we drive solutions. And so as you continue to engage in discourse today, and you'll hear more from other panelists about ways that we can continue to make sure that there's accountability across projects, that there is a diverse supply of resources and talent to provide the range of services that we know these projects will need, and that we're getting in early and often, which we know far too often is not the case. And so with that, I want to introduce another premier leader in the city of Chicago, Mr. Nick Lucius, who is the Chief IT Officer for the city of Chicago.
Sorry, Nick, I wanted to back up. Okay, so I have one more thing to say.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you so much. We have to talk about the order of events here. Following Mr. Roberson, I've been to a lot of shows, I've been to a lot of concerts, I've been to a lot of events, and this is not the act that you put after an act like that, but I just wanted to say if I knew I'd be following John, I would have had a different breakfast this morning. But thank you so much, John, and thank you to everyone who puts this event together. I'm privileged to serve as Mayor Johnson's CIO and Commissioner of the Department of Technology and Innovation. And with that, I can say the City of Chicago has a Department of Technology and Innovation. That's not something you're always able to say. So thanks to Mayor Johnson for the vision and leadership to create the department, and thanks to John Roberson for the support as well and pushing that forward when he served as COO for the city. Earlier today, our acting head of delivery, Roderick Warren, gave a presentation about our department. So how many people were in that presentation earlier? Can I just show of hands? Yeah, okay, so I see a few. I don't want to give a full regurgitation of what he told you all about the department, but I will talk a little bit. And we'll check before I get started. How much time do I have here today? 5 minutes, okay. So we're about people. Let me say that. Department of Technology and Innovation, we do the technology, but we don't really care about technology. What we care about is people. We care about how that technology serves people. And I'm going to tell you a couple stories today, because the number one thing I hear from partners that we may work with is they say, you know, that's great, Nick, technology for people. It's excellent vision for the mayor. What does that mean? What does that mean to you? And I often hear good feedback when I provide how I think about it, so I'm going to tell you all about that. Technology for people, for me, comes back to a couple stories in my past. One is in 2008 or so, around the height of the financial recession. I was working as a lawyer for the city, and I noticed that we had all this mail piling up, all these envelopes with all these yellow slips on them. And I mean hundreds, probably thousands. And one day I just saw this, I was like, what's all this? And come to find out that we're giving people fines for their properties, and those are the notices telling them about their problem with their property, right? Sending out mail saying, you gotta cut the grass, you gotta clean up the garbage, you gotta fix the porch, you gotta fix the roof. And they're all coming back not delivered. And meanwhile, I'm meeting people in court, they're saying, you never told me about that problem. And I'm sitting there thinking about all that mail, all those people who, they didn't even know, we didn't even tell them. They're faced with, I had people crying in the back room with me saying, I don't have the money for this, I can't deal with this fine that I got. And we went to try to use technology to fix that problem, and I realized how significant the effort is just to make changes in our IT systems to be able to do things like respond to a global recession and create new workflows to be able to deal with thousands of pieces of return mail that we never got before. Banks owning properties in the south and west sides and letting them deteriorate and get knocked down, and weeds and garbage and grass growing. I talked to so many people, I met so many people in one of the most difficult times of their lives. And it motivated me to work on technology systems that we built during those years to manage all that return mail, to manage the process, to better communicate with residents. And that's just one example where I looked in the eyes of hundreds, if not thousands, of Chicagoans who were going through such distress and their lives were affected. And that's what we were working for. We were working for making sure that those people got the notice so that they could fix their property, or they could sell their property, or they could do what they needed to do in order to make a safe environment for the people of Chicago in that area. And technology was the thing that helped us accomplish that. New apps, new workflows, the data, the reports that came out of all that. And so whenever we work on anything in the Department of Technology and Innovation, when you see procurement opportunities, when you see projects, when we talk about licenses, when we talk about apps, we talk about support, staffing, whatever it is, I want you to know that we're thinking about the people of Chicago who live in the neighborhoods, who walk outside and are just trying to get by, trying to live their lives. That's what we're focused on. That's how we evaluate everything we look at. That's how we evaluate everything we do. And so, sure, I could talk about the way the department works. I could talk about our priorities of finding cost efficiencies, our priorities around building better digital services for residents, enhancing our website, enhancing our 311 mobile and web application, to talk about cybersecurity, keeping the city safe during events like DNC last summer and the election in the fall. But when it comes down to it, we're here for the people of Chicago, and everything that we do is going to affect a resident, or we're not going to do it. And just wanted to give you a little bit about how I think about things and how our department approaches things. And I think I stayed within 5 minutes, so with that, I'll let you move on to the next section. If that involves questions or another person, I'm happy to stand here for a moment if we have any.
Thank you very much, Nick, and thank you to your team for your commitment to the city of Chicago.